Howdy and namaste, y'all. I'm Brad Bannon, Dr. Brad Bannon. Please call me Brad. It's what I prefer, but you can call me whatever you wish. Welcome to this course on world religions. So I've taught this course more times than I can remember, at least 35 times by my count. And every time I teach it a little bit differently, and this time is no exception. So a typical college course like this one requires 115 hours are expected from each student. I personally think that's a bit unrealistic, especially for a compressed online summer class like this one. So I've kind of gotten it down to about 35 hours. So you need 35 hours in order to complete this course. So that's the good news. But the bad news is that there are currently only 35 days left in this semester. I'm recording this on May 16th, and the course begins tomorrow on May 17th, which is probably when you're watching this. And the entire semester is only 35 days long, and it requires at least 35 hours to complete, which means that you'll need to spend at least an hour a day on it. Now, I think that it's good and healthy for you to take the weekends off or some time off here and there, which means that you'll need to spend more than an hour a day in order to do that. So it's really important that you try to stay on track, that you keep up with everything. I've taught this course many times, and I always have some students fail the course, unfortunately. I never want that to happen. I'm always looking for every student to get an A, and I have had some courses where everyone got an A, and I certainly hope that that's the case this time. But the only way to do that is to keep up. So I've given you a very clear schedule of what you should be doing each day, what you should be accomplishing each week. And so I just want to give you a quick overview of what this course entails. I've got several introductory videos lined up after this one, which you'll watch next. But just to give you a quick overview of the course and kind of a syllabus, rundown of the syllabus and what to expect from this course. So your final grade in this course comes from 8 assignments. So there's 3 individual meetings with me, and then there's 5 podcast recordings, which I'll explain in a moment. So the first assignment is to meet with me sometime in the next few days, as soon as possible. I've got a scheduling tool, which is on the syllabus and on the website. So just click on that link and it'll take you to my schedule availability. Just pick a time that works for your schedule. I've got lots of hours available. I'm available 6 days a week. I usually take Sundays for myself and for my kids, but my schedule is wide open. On Mondays and Tuesdays, for example, I'm available from like 10 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock in the evening. So just find a time that works for you, and our first meeting will be about 15 minutes, probably 10 to 15 minutes, and it's just a sort of a getting to know you session. So that's 10% of your grade, so you'll get 10 points for that. And it's not really graded, it's just graded, did you do it or not? So it's kind of a freebie 10 points as long as you schedule the meeting so that we can, meet and get to know each other. So simply click the link, find a time. When you click the link and choose a time, it will automatically put it on my calendar. You have to schedule it at least 3 hours ahead of time, but you can schedule it all the way for the whole semester. So if you want to schedule all your meetings now, you can do that so that you get first choice. And as soon as you schedule it, it will no longer be available to other students. So it's first come, first serve. And if things come up for me, then I can always, I'll block those times out so they won't be available. But if you get on the schedule, then I will make sure that I am there. And as soon as you click on that, it will, like I said, automatically generate an entry on my calendar. It will also automatically generate a link to a Zoom meeting. So you'll have the link and I'll have the link, and it'll be on my calendar, and I will absolutely be there. You don't need to send me an email or anything like that. I will be there at the meeting and ready to go right on time. And I'm usually a few minutes early to every meeting, so I encourage you to be on time for that as well. If you have to cancel, I know sometimes things come up and you have to cancel, please don't cancel at the last minute. If you have to cancel as early as possible. And if it's the same day that you're canceling, then please send me a text message or something so that I'm not sitting there taking time away from my kids in order to wait for a meeting that's not going to happen. So please avoid canceling meetings at all costs unless it's well in advance, and then just reschedule. That's no problem. So that's the first meeting, and then after the first meeting, you're required to meet with me 2 more times. So the next time is at midterm, and so that'll be another 15-minute meeting, and that's worth 10% of your grade. So 10% of your grade comes from the midterm. You can think of it as an oral exam. It's not quite as formal as that, but it's probably better to think of it more as an oral exam than as anything else. And it's good to plan at least an hour of preparation for that. So review your notes, go through your notes, think about what you want to say in that meeting, have everything organized. You can use your notes in the meeting. However, I strongly encourage you to go without your notes as much as possible, because I really just want to know what you're learning from the course. So if we have just a good conversation about the course content, you have a few things saying, I really learned a lot about this, this was really interesting, I related to this in this way or that way, then we can have a conversation about that, and you'll do great in this course. But like I said, expect and plan to spend about an hour preparing for that meeting, and then that meeting will last about 15 minutes for the midterm. The final oral exam is basically the same thing. So spend at least an hour preparing for that, going over your notes, thinking about what you want to say. I'll give you a little bit more prompt as we get near that time, and I'll say a bit more about that closer to the time. But it's basically going to be the same thing. So that's 15% of your grade comes from the oral final exam, which again is about 15 minutes, just individually, one-on-one. You can use your notes, but again, it's best to try and rely on your notes as little as possible. So I want to be very clear that these 3 individual meetings are required and they're graded. However, you can schedule a meeting with me anytime you want in addition to those 3 meetings. Those additional meetings will not be graded. You can meet with me anytime that you like. My schedule is wide open, and I'm always happy to meet with students to discuss anything related to the course content at all, or to talk about your experiences with it or whatever. So please schedule meetings with me as often as you like to discuss anything related to the course. Only those 3 required meetings will be graded. The rest of them, are not. So they're just time for us to chat, like office hours or something like that. But instead of doing office hours, my office hours are basically anytime, 6 days a week, that I'm available, and I'm happy to meet with you individually, or I can meet with you and another student in the class. Some students are more comfortable with that. And those meetings will be through Zoom or Google Meet. So the remaining 65% of your grade for this course comes from a series of 5 small group discussions, which I tend to call podcasts. So they're not really podcasts, but they kind of are. Basically, there's 16 students in this course. I've already divided you into groups. So you're in a group of 4. So we've got 4 groups of 4 students. And if there's a friend that you have in the class that you really want to be with them in the group and you weren't assigned to them in the group, then send me an email right away, and before we get going, I'm happy to make some adjustments there. But right now everybody's in a group. So then you will need to schedule a meeting with the people in your group. And that'll happen 5 times. Basically this course is 5 weeks long. And at the end of each week, you'll just have a meeting with the people in your podcast group. In the schedule, as I was blocking out time and estimating how much time it would take you to complete this course and to do a good job, I planned on 2 hours for those meetings. Now, the meeting itself should only be about 20 to 30 minutes long. But again, it's important for you to prepare what you're going to say, review your notes, think about what you're going to say in that meeting, go in with a plan, go in with something ready to say. So spend about an hour and a half preparing for that meeting with your group. And then when you get together, just hit record. You don't need to do any editing or anything like that. Have a plan ahead of time, not just your individual plan, but a plan with the group. I've been using this format for quite a long time. I know at least one student in this course that has had me previously and has used podcasts before. And what it seems to me, the format that works best, you've got 4 students in your group, so you and 3 others, and you're going to plan on each discussion taking between 20 and 30 minutes long. So plan each one of the 4 people to lead a section of that 20 minutes, right? So if each one of you prepares to lead the discussion for about 5 to 7 minutes, just prepare as you normally would for a small group discussion. So think about what you want to say ahead of time, have a quote from some of the lectures, have something specific from the content. Don't try to cover everything, but instead narrow in and hone in on 1 or 2 things from the lectures and the course content that really that you connected with or that you found particularly interesting. Have something to say about that, sort of introduce the topic. If you have some sort of question or discussion topic that you want to propose to the group, that would be great. and then just have a little mini discussion about that. Ideally, I would like each of the four of you to lead part of every podcast discussion, and each one of those little units, everybody should participate. Everybody should talk, right? It's not just one person talking for 5 minutes and then another person talking for 5 minutes and then another person talking for 5 minutes. But instead, each one of you have, prepare like a little mini discussion so that you talk for a minute or two, kind of set it up, and then go around the circle and see what everybody has to say about it. I want to emphasize that all grades are individual. I don't do group grades. So even though this is a group project that you're doing as a group, you don't get a group grade for it. That's important to emphasize, because I've had some students who were in really great podcast groups and they go in and they have good discussions, but it was clear that one of the people was not well prepared and they thought they could just skate by. That doesn't fly with me. So if there's somebody in your group that's just not carrying their own weight, you don't worry about it. It's not going to affect your grade. It will affect their grade, but it won't affect yours. So all grades are individual. That said, part of your grade comes from demonstrating that you understand the phenomenological method, which is one of the first lectures in this course. So I put that right at the beginning because it's super important for this course. So in order to demonstrate that, you have to demonstrate not just that you have something meaningful to say about the content of the lectures and the content of the course, but that you're able to listen to one another and respond to one another. So part of your grade will be demonstrating that you can listen to your podcast mates and that you can respond to what they're saying and contribute to the conversation. And part of your grade depends on being able to lead part of the discussion and contribute something in that way. So don't stress over it too much. The way I structured the grades, so the first two podcasts are only worth 10 points, 10% of your final grade. Then the last three are worth a bit more. They're worth 15 points. So the idea is that, there's a learning curve here, and I will give you feedback and I will give the group feedback about how to improve your podcast. But basically just go with it, go prepared, and you'll do great. You don't need to do any editing on the podcast. So just when you meet together, arrange ahead of time, figure out one of the people from your group should be responsible for recording it. You can change whose responsibility that is week to week, doesn't matter. But if you don't know how to record a meeting, you can Google it. It's not very hard to figure out. You can call the help desk or something like that. There's lots of different ways to do it, but simply just record the meeting. That way I can see everybody that's in the Zoom or Google Meet, whatever you're using, and I can hear everybody. I'll just follow along and listen to your podcast, your small group discussion. And then when you're done, just hit stop and send me the file. So the best way to do that is through Google Drive. You can use the Google Drive system through Fitchburg State. That way it's private. No one else can see it other than the people in your group, which I'll set up little folders so that everybody in your group can see the folders. And then you just share it with me, use my Fitchburg State email address and share it with me that way. Send an email to everybody in the group so that everybody knows that it's submitted and they can relax knowing, okay, it's there. Then I'll watch it. I will not give feedback on every single podcast, but I will absolutely give feedback to each group at least twice, and usually more than twice during the semester. So if there are any major issues with your podcast, I will respond right away and let you know. And again, there's a learning curve. So, the first podcast is basically going to be, giving you credit for doing it and following the instructions. So I don't want to make like the content in the first couple of units are really important. So be sure that you're up to date. It should be really clear in the materials I've given you what's expected to be covered in every podcast. Again, I don't expect you to cover everything. You can't cover all of the content for each one. But if everybody's following along and keeping up to date, then you should be able to have really good, meaningful conversations about the content, and you'll be able to cover a lot of the main points from those. So I try to be flexible with the due dates. When it gets closer to the end of the semester, I get more pressure because I need to have everything graded and the grades submitted on time. I don't like to be late, so I'm less flexible with the due dates at the end and a little bit more flexible with the due dates at the beginning. But like I said, there's a good deal of work, and if in my experience, if students fall behind, it's really hard to catch up for this for a fast 5-week course like this. So keep on track and make sure that at the end of every week, that's part of the podcast. That's why the podcast assignments are at the end of each week, so that by the end of the week, you should be caught up and you should be well prepared. And I look forward to those small group discussions. There's only a small amount of reading for this course. I've got a couple of reading assignments, but even those, I'm going to try and record some videos where I kind of walk you through the reading assignment. Some people learn really well from reading and some people don't. So in this online format, I've found that it's more helpful to kind of walk you through the readings as much as possible. So there are a few readings which you certainly need to do and take note of, but there's not a lot of, it's not very reading heavy. It is very video heavy, so I've got a lot of videos, and in fact the first 10 hours of videos are already up. They're shared on YouTube, and I'll give you the links to all of those and the materials that I'm giving you now with the syllabus. And so you can go ahead and dive in, and I would encourage you to start right off the bat and try to keep up with the schedule that I've given you. The remaining videos I will be adding as we go along. I actually recorded them a couple of years ago, and the format of the course has changed, and a lot of things I just want to update. So just be prepared for that. Some of the videos were recorded last year, and some of them, my hair is long in most of them. I just recently cut off my hair. And you know, some of the times I have really good recording audio equipment like I do now, and good camera, and some of them I don't. So just be prepared for that. The quality of them are all over the place, but I think for the most part they're pretty good. And I have tried my best to make everything entertaining and engaging and interesting. So, you know, try to block out all distractions. Make sure you're watching the video without other people around or without other distractions. Don't multitask. Most of the videos I've tried to keep as short as possible so that you can just watch it and then take a break. Be sure you're taking notes as you're watching the videos. Treat it like you would any other, you know, college course. This is a undergraduate level college course, so you need to take notes as you're watching the videos. It's not like watching other YouTube videos. So take notes as you go, then review those notes after, just like you would for any other course. And if you do that, if you watch the videos, you take good notes, you're not distracted, you keep on pace, and you do all the assignments, then it should be very easy to walk out of this class with an A. And like I said, I really genuinely want every student in the course to get an A. Not because I care about grades, but because I care about the students, I care about each one of you, and I care about the material. So I do care about the material. There's reasons why I do this, why I've chosen this profession, why I left a career on Wall Street in order to do this. I'll explain that in the intro videos where I kind of tell you a bit about myself. Some of the videos contain very difficult philosophy. Some of the videos are about meditation and meditation practices and are pretty chill. Some of them are very difficult, challenging philosophy. And from experience with other students who have watched these videos, many students, especially those heavier, difficult philosophy videos, say, I really needed to watch it 2 or 3 times and take close notes in order to be able to follow it. But that's one of the benefits of watching it on videos. You can pause, you can rewind, you can rewatch it. So I do expect you to understand most of the philosophy. At the very least, you should understand enough to be able to ask good questions. So I don't expect you to understand everything that I'm teaching in the philosophy, but I do expect you to understand enough that you can ask good questions, schedule a meeting with me. Also, one of the great benefits of having these small group discussions is that you can learn from each other. And the best podcasts are ones where that happens, where one student maybe doesn't quite understand one point or one section of a lecture, and they understand that it's important, and they don't quite understand how it fits in, so they kind of bring that up with the group. And if you're listening to one another, 9 times out of 10, somebody in the group understood it well enough to be able to explain it. And those kind of points, that just wins all sorts of points with me, but it's also just really good practice. And it's really what the phenomenological method is, about everybody in the group being able to contribute something and helping to learn from one another and helping one another to learn the material together. So just a couple of points about the overall structure. So I've divided the course into what I'm calling 16 lessons. You could think about them sort of as units. So there are lots of different sub-lessons within the lessons. So maybe it's more helpful to think of them as units. The first unit is just an intro and overview, a lot about me and a lot about the phenomenological method, which I say again is super key. We're going to try and learn the phenomenological method and then put the phenomenological method into practice. And everything that I do in this course models the phenomenological method, and I expect you to model it in the podcast discussions. Those of you who have had me before should already be somewhat familiar with the phenomenological method. It's the method that I use throughout all of my courses in philosophy. The second unit is on phenomenology, but also on why are we studying religion? Why are we studying religion and theology? And side note, I will often refer to this course as a religious quest for reasons that I explained in the video. Sometimes I will use that term and sometimes I won't. Lesson 3 is very philosophical, kind of giving you what I call philosophical tools in order to study philosophy and theology. Lesson 4 is just asking the question, what is religion? What do we mean by the word religion? What does the word mean and how has it been used? How is it understood by various theorists of religion? Lesson 5 is the same thing, but on theology. So what is theology and how does it differ from religion, and what is it and what's the point of studying it? Lesson 6 is on myth. So what is a myth? What does the word myth mean? Why are we studying myths, and how do myths function within the lives of humans? Lesson 7 is on what I'm calling divine madness. So there's some on Plato and on this kid named Diogenes of Sinope, who's dope, and leading up to Nietzsche, Friedrich Nietzsche. So there's a bit on atheism in there and a bit on so divine madness and atheism might be a good title for lesson 7. Then after that, the course content shifts quite a bit, and for the rest of the course we'll be looking at particular religious traditions. And there's an important pattern that I want to point out to you now. So lesson 8 is sort of an intro overview of Judaism and lots of the basic kind of things that you would expect to learn from a course like this on world religions will be in that section. Then lesson 9, we're going to do a close look, kind of a zoom in. So if lesson 8, sort of this broad overview of Judaism and Jewish traditions, then lesson 9 is like a super focused, just looking at one Jewish person. So we'll be looking at this kid named Matisyahu. You may or may not be familiar with his music, but we're going to look at some music videos, a number of music videos by him. He's a reggae rapper, Jewish reggae rapper. And so we'll look closely at a number of his music videos and think about them in conjunction with his Jewish faith and with the things that we learn in. So taking what we learn in lesson 8 and then applying it in this sort of close look in lesson 9. Then we'll do basically the same thing with Islam. So lesson 10 is on this sort of overview of Islam, giving the 5 pillars and the basic tenets, basic history of Islam, who Muhammad is, and that sort of thing. Then in lesson 11, we'll do a zoom in, this time on this kid named Rumi. So Rumi was a poet and a mystic, regarded as the founder of Sufism, which is Islamic mysticism. We'll look at some of his poems. We'll talk about his life and investigate, again, sort of doing this broad overview in lesson 10, and then in lesson 11, doing this zoom in, close look at one great Muslim thinker in Jalaluddin Rumi. Lesson 12, then again, kind of zooming out and giving you an overview of Buddhism and Buddhist philosophy. We'll look at the life of the Buddha and the philosophy and teachings of the Buddha in lesson 12. And then lesson 13, we zoom in on one particular Buddhist, Pakru Pitak, who's a Thai Buddhist monk in current day Thailand, and we'll read a little bit about him, and then I've got a video, sort of diving into thinking about Pitak as sort of an embodiment of the Buddhist teachings and emulating the Buddha through his own actions, particularly in regard to ecology and environmental justice and that sort of thing. Then lesson 14, we'll look at some Native American traditions, primarily Navajo and Hopi Indian tribes in the southwestern United States. Then we'll dive into Hindu traditions in lesson 15. My expertise is in Hindu and Christian theology, Hindu and Christian comparative studies. We unfortunately don't really have space in this course to cover Christianity, which I know is is obviously a big religious tradition, but and I hate to leave it out, but you got to make decisions and what to include and what to exclude. So our focus in lesson 15 will be on Hindu traditions, and we'll look at lots of different Hindu traditions. So the main three ones on Vaishnavism and Shaivism and Shaktism. So worship of Vishnu, Shiva, and Devi, or the goddess. And then I'll wrap up with just one or two lectures at the end, sort of concluding section, trying to pull everything together. And then you'll have your final exam and your final podcast. I did do it in that order. So the final exam, the oral exam, comes first. And then, sometimes those don't go as well as students would hope or students want, or they feel like, oh, I wish I'd said this in the final exam. People get anxiety and nervousness and all that kind of stuff. I totally get that. I try to put people at ease. When we do oral exams in person in the office, I usually bring shots, but just to kind of put everybody at ease. But the idea is that you've got this last podcast, and that's the way that you'll end the course. So you've got a chance to sort of, demonstrate what you learned from the exam experience. There's a number of reasons that I use oral exams. One is that I feel like college is supposed to teach you critical skills that are going to be useful to you well after you graduate. And one of those skills is learning how to interview, learning how to be in those sort of, I know it's anxiety producing, I know it makes people nervous, and I do my best to try and put people at ease. But to some extent, that's good practice. It's good, important practice, which will prepare you for those sort of intense meetings when you have interviews and things after you graduate. So, it's important to be prepared for those, but also try to be as relaxed as you can. If you've taken a lot away from this course, then you should have way more to talk about than you have time for. And that's always a good thing. So I'll end this off here. You've got the syllabus. If you have any questions, please drop me an email or schedule a meeting with me. You do need to schedule a meeting with me right away for that first, get to know you meeting, and that's a great time to ask questions if there's anything that you're unclear about or uncertain about or nervous about, then that's a good time to bring it up. And I look forward to meeting everybody that I haven't already met, and I look forward to getting to know you and kind of going on this journey. I do think about this course as a kind of journey, as a kind of quest. I've structured it that way, so it has a beginning and a middle and an end, and kind of take you on this journey that's not just learning about other humans, but also helping you to understand yourself and your place in this world better. So I look forward to getting to know you. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you find parts of it funny and entertaining and meaningful in other ways. So thank you for taking this course, and I look forward to meeting you all, and peace out.